Hello there, everybody. We are live for the UFC Las Vegas preview show here on MMAfighting.com. As you can see, no bells and whistles. Casey is off for the next couple of days, but we want to do a show anyways. So thank you for joining us. We got a big bantamweight fight potentially scheduled for 5 rounds between Petr Yan and Merab Dvalishvili. We'll talk about the stakes of that fight and some of the other ones on the card throughout the program. But I'm Mike Heck. We got the Prince of Positivity, Alexandr K. Lee, right in the center square, and to the right, the world traveler himself, José Youngs. Gentlemen, we got UFC Las Vegas. We're coming off of UFC 285, where the hangover is incredibly real and ongoing. It is still ongoing. We still have a lot of talking points, a lot of storylines coming out of UFC 285, but the good news is we are out of the Apex. We have a sort of an enclosed crowd, a intimate setting for this event, AK, but we got a bantamweight bout with some stakes in the main event. We have a former main event rescheduled for this card. We have a lot of questions in the co-main event. This is not a bad card. Where are we at as far as the gymnastics score goes?
Well, listen, I'm going to leave this one to the people, Mike, because thank you for that fine introduction, by the way. I have started a poll already. And I'm not going numerical this time. Let's be a little more creative. So I simply am asking the viewers, how excited are you about the ridiculously named UFC Las Vegas on Saturday? Obviously from most to lowest, top option. I'm peeing myself in anticipation, currently at 16%. Good card. Leading the way, big time, 60%. Meh card, 20% right now, and you couldn't pay me to watch this at 2%, which I think is good. I can't imagine too many people would pick that option. I think it's I don't think it's a bad card at all. So, yeah. So I'm leaving it to the people. I don't really have a gymnastics score for this one. I'm going to throw it to Jose, Mike. If you don't mind me taking a little over the hosting. When is the last time a card was directly, if ever, was wedged between two pay-per-views? Like not like literally 3 weeks in a row. And the one card, and then there's a fight night in the middle. I have to think never, right? This can't have happened ever, right?
Like it's the cream filling of pay-per-view Oreo.
Yes, that's a nice way of putting it.
That's a good question. I'm trying to think of like the last time they were, because I guess like was it? No, because that was back to back, and one of them was an ABC card.
Yeah, we've had events where there's like a pay-per-view and then like maybe a gap in between with one fight night and then another pay-per-view. But I don't know if we've ever had pay-per-view the next week, fight night, and the very next week another pay-per-view. Like I don't think that's
because we did like the Abu Dhabi one was weird because it was like UFC 267 to 268 were like back to back weekends, but 267 was an ABC card if I remember correctly. I can't think of many Oreo pay-per-views, honestly. Maybe
first one.
Maybe if oh man, it's
this is great.
Oh,
I'm like doing the
it's happening.
Frowning.
Frowning.
So Conor Poirier 2 was like mid-January, end of January, and then Usman Burns was the beginning of February. Is that one, or was there 2 weeks in between with an off week?
Wow. Okay, here's what I see. I see Poirier McGregor 2, January 20. So there was one off week, but that's pretty close. Yeah.
But then it was a double stuffed one with a week of nothing.
It was double stuffed. Okay. Yes, Overeem Volkov in between that. But yeah, that's probably about as close as we get.
Yeah.
Wow. What a poll.
That's the only one I can think of.
We worked that one out pretty well. Jose it'll always come. We'll get an answer within 3 or 4 minutes when it comes to
because I just have to think of what the pay-per-view headliners were and when they happened, and then it's from there it's tough. It's like a process of elimination. Now I'm going to be thinking about this the whole show.
So let's get into this thing. Jose, we got Petr Yan versus Merab Dvalishvili. Petr Yan, back-to-back split decision losses in 2022. First one to Aljamain Sterling in the rematch for the bantamweight title in Jacksonville. Then he fights Sean O'Malley in Abu Dhabi, UFC 280. Loses another split decision. Seems like most people thought Aljo won the first fight. A lot of people thought Yan won the second fight, but he goes winless in 2022, which was not something a lot of people expected. Now he bounces back to take on Aljamain Sterling's longtime friend and teammate Merab Dvalishvili, and things got a little bit heated at the final stare down today. I don't know if it was a push or a slap or a karate chop to the neck or a hybrid combination of three, but things got heated. There's a lot going on here. Finally, these guys are going to step into the octagon. What are your thoughts on the matchup a little over 24 hours away from it?
I mean, this fight rules in every sense of the word. Merab finally gets his 5-round fight. Petr Yan gets a highly touted opponent in another 5-round fight, and there's still stakes to this, because I think a lot of people thought when he lost to Sean O'Malley, and I use that in quotes, when he quote unquote lost to Sean O'Malley, that might be it for Yan for at least a bit, because at that point, because then he lost 3 in a row, it was the disqualification, the loss to Aljamain, and then the 3-round loss to Sean O'Malley. It's either, and then Petr Yan was like, oh, I might retire, I might leave the UFC because of ABC. I think maybe fans were, because we've seen this a million times in the past, like a really high level fighter goes on a skid, and then he's kind of he can't say no to fights, if that makes sense. So they try to give him like a lower ranked guy. It's like when RDA fought Brian Barberena or Andre Muniz fought Jacare Souza. Like RDA and Jacare are incredible fighters, but because of their history leading up to that fight, they just, I don't want to say forced, but it was at that point when you can't really say no to what the UFC gives you. And obviously it worked out for Andre Muniz. He snapped Jacare's arm in half, and then RDA just kind of beat up Brian Barberena in Orlando. And then from there, RDA kind of is looking to bounce back into bigger names again. But Yan gets a fight against Merab, who's coming off a win over José Youngs. And I think we've said it a few times, like, can you think of a fighter that won a fight convincingly and had lowered his stock as much as Merab? And I'm not one of those guys that, like, a win is a win. I view this as a sport, and Merab got a win over a UFC Hall of Famer, a former champion. Good on you. And now he's fighting a guy in a 3-fight losing streak, but it still feels like there's massive stakes where Yan needs to get back into the win column against a guy he very obviously doesn't like. And Merab needs to, beat Petr Yan so he can maintain his spot as a possible #1 contender, especially with all these big bantamweight fights coming up. We really need to keep the top 5 moving. So this fight checks all the boxes. Incredibly high level martial arts fight. The storyline is there, considering, Yan and Merab have bumped into each other. They speak the same language, so they can trash talk in a way that we obviously can't understand. And the winner of this just either maintains themselves as a future #1 contender or gets himself right back into the mix, maybe another win away from another title fight. So checks all of the boxes. Also, bantamweight rules, just happens to be the second best weight class. I'm going to say that forevermore. This is the true definition of a fight night main event. I love everything about this fight.
Yes, I like this fight a lot as well. AK, your thoughts on the matchup? We got Petr Yan, who's lost 3 of his last 4, loses the title via DQ to Aljo. Then he beats Corey Sandhagen in an incredible fight to win the interim title, loses to Aljo, and then loses to Sean O'Malley. And then Merab Dvalishvili has won 8 straight. Where are we at with this one? This is a great fight.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, we say lost 3 of the last 4. Technically true. There's no question. But I don't think in any of those fights, I guess depending on how people viewed his IQ after, getting disqualified in the first Aljo fight. But I mean, a lot of people thought he was going to win that fight if it had continued. I know Aljo, I think, was up on one of the cards, I believe. So, it was a competitive fight, but I don't think he lost much stock. If anything, I think we remember Aljo taking way more crap for winning the title by DQ than Petr Yan, taking any guff for losing it in that way. Gets to win over Sandhagen. Amazing fight. Probably one of the forgotten fights of 2021. That fight was so good. Second fight with Aljo, again, I think he lost, but it was highly competitive. And then the O'Malley fight, another fight, could have gone either way. And another amazing fight of the year in 2022. So it sounds so weird to say lost 3 of his last 4, because in my mind, he's still clearly no worse than like the 3rd best bantamweight in the world. Now, what's great is that this is another matchup that he could lose the decision. I mean, we're going to get to our official prediction soon, but we're talking about a guy who's on a huge win streak, who stylistically is a nightmare for almost anyone. I'm talking about Merab, of course. And, with the kind of pressure he puts on, thankfully this is a 5-round fight. In a 3-round fight, I think I'd favor Merab for sure. But this is a 5-round fight. We know Petr Yan sometimes takes time to get cooking. So that's, again, what makes this so compelling. I do wish the stakes were a little more clear. Not that every main event should be based around, oh, does this person get a title shot, blah, blah. It doesn't have to be about that. I've said this on shows many times. If there's a great matchup, it should just be appreciated for what it is. So I am going to take this that way. I want to see Petr Yan and Merab fight. I don't care if it's for a title or not. It's 5 rounds. That's fantastic. But it does somewhat suck, though, that we know Yan is probably not getting an immediate title shot. Maybe if he knocks Merab out, like does something really sensational, he gets it. He's probably not getting a title shot off this. And we know Merab is not going to fight Aljo no matter what happens. So, like Jose said, they're fighting to keep their spot in the rankings, which is fine because Aljamain Sterling may move up to 145 pounds sometime in the future. He may lose the title to Henry Cejudo. I know a lot of people see that happening when that fight is eventually booked. And then Petr Yan could certainly fight Henry Cejudo. He could, Merab would certainly fight him. So I get it. Just maintaining your spot is important, but it is kind of weird though that should Aljamain, fight Henry and retain, it kind of leaves both these guys not that much closer to a title shot with a win. So from that aspect, it's a little fuzzy to me.
Yeah, I agree. That's the one. I love this fight, and sometimes stakes can only take you so far, but it's just wild to think about this fight that even if Merab wins, Jose, on an 8-fight win streak, he'll have 9 wins in a row. 9 wins in a row. He's probably not getting a title shot with a win here. I mean, something insane would have to happen. He'd probably have to just rifle through Petr Yan and finish him inside of like 8 minutes and just do something incredible. Otherwise, do you think he needs still like another win, another 2? Like, I know you want to see things play out and it's hard to play the hypothetical game, but I feel like does Yan need this more? Does Merab need this more?
Yan needs this. Yan needs this more for sure, considering he's lost 3 in a row. I know the first fight, I think most of us agree Yan was winning. Even Aljamain Sterling has agreed, like, if he doesn't get kneed in the head while his knee is down, like, Petr Yan is and still the bantamweight champion. And then the second fight, we were both there, Mike. It was very close. I don't remember how he scored it, but I don't remember thinking it was any sort of robbery or anything like that. It was a close fight. If Aljo beats Henry Cejudo whenever that fight happens, I would have to imagine Aljamain Sterling goes up to featherweight, considering he just posted that photo or that video clip of him posing with Conor. And he said, maybe I am a featherweight. I just got to, get through so-and-so first. So I think obviously he's been saying it forever. He told me after his win over TJ Dillashaw in Abu Dhabi that these weight cuts are getting worse and worse. So I would have to imagine Aljamain goes up. If Henry Cejudo wins, I can't imagine. Then obviously, and Sean O'Malley is sitting right there. He gets a title fight regardless. If Cheeto and Corey win, I would have to imagine the winner of that fight gets the title shot against either it's vacant against Sean O'Malley, or they fight the winner of this fight, and then the winner of that fights the winner of Henry Cejudo, Sean O'Malley. It's just a lot of things need to play out first. It's Henry Cejudo adding his name into the mix has just caused chaos, because the fight we should be getting in May is obviously Aljamain Sterling versus Sean O'Malley. Henry Cejudo comes back. This fight, obviously, they wanted this to happen in March. They were laying the grounds for even a vacant or an interim title fight. The fact that Sean O'Malley is sitting there waiting for the winner of Aljamain Cejudo, even like it's because, again, if Cheeto wins, and because everyone wants to see Cheeto and Sean O'Malley too. Like, even they want to see that fight. And then I'm not going to say no to Corey Sandhagen versus Sean O'Malley. I'm not going to say no to Corey Sandhagen versus Henry Cejudo either. Like, it's tough. Like, Henry Cejudo has caused chaos, as he does. So Merab might just have to wait. Or Yan's obviously not getting the title fight next. Yan, and the freaking Adrian Yan is just fighting Rob Font too. Like, there's so many bantamweight fights coming up, and Henry Cejudo has just kind of rifled his way to the top and just caused chaos. He is the pebble in the Healy of the world that's skating by. It's a frustrating situation.
Well played. I just feel like if Cheeto wins, he's going to get a title shot. Like, sure. What else does this man have to do? He's over like Rover. People want to see it.
It's O'Malley's the one. Like O'Malley and Sean O'Malley's the next play. He's the biggest star.
For sure.
Star-wise. And they're into the star making. Like, Sean O'Malley's getting the title fight next no matter what. It's just a matter of who he fights. If Aljo wins and goes up and Cheeto wins, they're going to do it for the vacant title. Like, that's a no-brainer. But if Cejudo wins and then then Sean O'Malley fights and then Cheeto's out of luck. Basically, Cheeto needs to win and Aljamain Sterling needs to win for us to get the rematch for the vacant title.
I just wish Aljamain Sterling just called out Sean O'Malley right after he beat TJ Dillashaw. It was right there. If you just did it and you cut a little bit of a promo right there and you didn't play well, I could eat some Cheetos, or I could call out the Sugar Man, or maybe even Henry Cejudo, or maybe this guy or that guy, we wouldn't even be in this situation right now.
And the problem is both, if you go back and watch the post-fight like press conferences for O'Malley and Sterling, I asked point blank, I'm like, is this the next fight? And they're like, oh, bro, I just got in a fight. I'll think about it. And then I'll say so. I'm like, you're an idiot. Like, just say that's next.
It's just the big bag of money, and now Aljo's probably not even going to fight Sean O'Malley. I don't. It's just crazy to think about. But now we're here, and there's nothing we can do about it. We can't go back in time. We are here right now. So, AK, do you think the stakes are higher in this fight or the Cheeto Sandhagen fight? Like, if you had to choose between the two, is it easy Cheeto Sandhagen, or do you think the stakes are higher in this one?
No, it's like Cheeto Sandhagen, but not by a mile. Not by a mile. Cheeto for sure. Listen, of the four guys we're talking about, if he wins, should get a title shot by the end of the year. There's a lot of shoulds. Gosh, I feel like we're saying a lot of shoulds, and I hate that because in a way we're right. I mean, Sean O'Malley should get a title shot. Cheeto Vera, if he beats Corey Sandhagen, should get a title shot. But Cejudo coming back really, really throws a stupid wrench into this fantastic division. And I know a lot of people are jazzed up about that fight, and I'm sure I'll talk myself into it when it comes to fight time. Like, it's cool, like one of the best pound for pound fighters during his time coming back to fight Aljo. What's not to like, So that aspect, I'll sell myself on it. But then I think about, again, all these contenders that have been waiting and have been competing and putting on incredibly exciting, not just winning, putting on incredibly exciting fights over the past few years in the absence of Henry Cejudo, who willingly left, who just walked away, which is his right. Good for him. He wasn't getting the money that he was probably wanted, and that's fine. Good for him. But it just sucks he gets to walk back into a title shot. So yes, back to the question though. Cheeto and Sandhagen is more important, probably more so for Cheeto than anyone else. Though I do think there is a path for Sandhagen to get that title shot as well. But he's probably, even with a win, it just doesn't give him an airtight case unless he really just runs through Cheeto. So all four of these guys we're talking about, the two guys fighting on Saturday, and Cheeto and Sandhagen, it's not just winning; it's they have to make some sort of statement. I think the way they perform is going to be important too. If guys are just eking out decisions left and right, UFC will be very happy to pass over them for whoever's waiting in the wings or waiting for someone else to emerge. Same with whoever has the title. Like, they're not gonna. If Aljo gets past Cejudo, or if Cejudo beats Aljo, neither of those guys is going to be like, oh yeah, bring on the next challenger. Like, I want to stay busy. I want to fight 4 times in 2023, excuse me. None of those guys are going to be like that. So this cluster biff at bantamweight is not going to get cleared up quickly just through activity. Guys have to really, really make a statement, make themselves undeniable. And again, it sucks because I feel like some have already made that case and just didn't get their shot.
Well, we'll see which one of these guys gets it done. Petr Yan, the -275 favorite. The comeback on the surging Merab Dvalishvili, +210. Jose, we begin with you. Who ends the night in top? Maybe not the top of the discussion for the bantamweight title, but at least in the mix, because one of these guys has got to go. Yeah, will it be Petr Yan or will it be Merab?
I like both guys in terms of what they bring to the table. I'm on record saying, for like the last several Petr Yan preview shows like I've done, that the Petr Yan that fought Corey Sandhagen, I think it's the best bantamweight I've ever seen. That fight was bananas. That was my pick for fight of the year for 2021, and I believe it came in second on the site behind Justin Gaethje versus Michael Chandler. Fine, that was the winner the second they even signed the dotted line. I get it. But Corey Sandhagen versus Petr Yan just had everything you want in a high-level MMA fight. And if you go back and watch that fight, it's hard not to just consider Petr Yan the best bantamweight in the world. And yes, Aljamain Sterling beat him fair and square, took him down, got his back, did all that stuff. I'm not a fan. I don't subscribe to the notion that, you know, of stand-ups and all that stuff, because if you're a grown man, you can't get a guy off your back in a fight, then you don't win the fight. So Petr Yan lost that night. When Petr Yan is clicking on all cylinders, I do believe he is the best bantamweight in the world. I'm picking him to beat Merab Dvalishvili, who is I don't know if you guys have talked about it, or Mike, if you've talked about it in Heck of a Morning or anything like that. Merab is not the biggest bantamweight. So it's to the point where he came in like 134.5, which is obviously 0.5 below championship weight. He didn't even use the 1 pound grace that Petr Yan came. I think he came 136. Merab is not the biggest guy. The Jose Aldo fight was frustrating in the sense that he just kind of controlled Jose Aldo. He didn't do much damage, which again, he won the fight fair and square. I'm not saying that Aldo won. I think Merab won fair and square. I just think Petr Yan is an incredibly violent fighter. He is incredibly well-rounded. Dustin Poirier is on record on the MMA Hour saying he thinks that Petr Yan might be the best all-around boxer in all of MMA. I think Petr Yan gets it done. I don't think he'll finish Merab. I think Merab gets touched a lot, as we saw in the Marlon Moraes fight. If they stop, I'll ask both of you, if they stopped that Marlon Moraes fight at some point when, you know, Merab was on Bambi legs, I don't think any of us would have complained about a bad stoppage. But the ref didn't stop it, and Merab won. But that's Marlon Moraes, and tale as old as time, Marlon Moraes is winning until he's not. So I just think, with all that in mind, I think Petr Yan gets it done. I'm not picking a finish. I don't know how he gets it done. I just see Petr Yan getting back into the win column, because is there a fighter with worse luck than Petr Yan? Knees Aldo in the face, gets his belt taken away. A lot of people think Petr Yan won the second fight. I don't know how you guys feel. And then almost everybody I talk to thinks he beat Sean O'Malley. So in an alternate reality that's not too far off in the multiverse, Petr Yan is defending his title for like the third time right now. You know, it's tough to be a Petr Yan fan, knowing what he can do. I'm also obviously a fan of Merab. I just think Petr Yan gets it done. And
a lot of people thought he beat Magomed Magomedov at ACB too. So like splitty DQ. That's his loss.
He could be an undefeated cat.
Yep. There's an argument to be made. AK, where are we at here? Who gets this done? Will it be the big favorite Petr Yan, or will Merab Dvalishvili make it 9 straight?
Yeah, it's funny you guys mentioned the decisions, though, because at some point, is that just bad luck? Is that just questionable judging, or is there something he's not doing, that is causing him to lose decisions? Again, I would have been fine with him winning the O'Malley decision. I've written about that fight. I've talked about that fight ad nauseum. I thought both guys had a case, so I do think he did enough there. Aljo, I don't think he did enough in that second fight. And I've actually never watched. I will say I've never watched the Magomedov fight. I plead ignorance there. I know he won the rematch, but I did not see the first fight, so I don't know the circumstances there. But and that is my concern here as well. Is I do think it's going to go the distance. And Merab is just such a weird, funky, nasty fighter sometimes. There's so much pressure, and Petr Yan deals with pressure great normally. Don't get me wrong. He gets taken down, sure. He gets hit sometimes, but usually over the course of 25 minutes, it's gonna tilt in his favor. So that is the big factor for me. I think Petr Yan is somewhat fortunate. This wasn't like a co-main event or a main card fight last week or on the London card. Because I think if this was a 3-rounder, the chances really, really increase from Rob to just like get busy early, just go nuts early, start landing some stuff before Petr Yan can really figure him out. Because I think Petr Yan will figure him out sometime late in the second round, and then through rounds 3, 4, and 5, start to pull away in the cards. I just think I shouldn't say I think. I know when it comes to the mixing the martial arts, I know Petr Yan is the better fighter. Not by like a huge margin, but he is better. I really, really confidently feel, again, one of the 3 best bantamweights in the world, like Jose said, could easily be the UFC champion right now. There's nothing that happened in this past, in this 3 out of 4 losses that tells me like, oh well, he's declining. These are bad matchups. No, he really was very close to winning all these fights. Close only counts in horseshoes, yes. But in this case, I expect him to throw the horseshoe right near the pole thing. So anyway, that whole metaphor got away from me. But I've never played horseshoes. Petr Yan by unanimous decision.
Bocce ball too.
I forget. Never. I don't know.
What's the sport with the brooms? They play up in Canada.
Curling. There we go.
Curling. Same thing.
Right. Get the rock right in there.
Have you ever done that, AK? Have you ever curled?
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say
it's so fun. It's so fun.
I mean, I figured it would be a lot of fun.
Edmonton Oilers kick rocks on record.
I'm going Petr Yan by decision as well. I could be completely wrong. I don't have a good read on this fight. I really don't. I think Yan is just a little more well-rounded here. He's clearly the better striker. He actually has pretty good takedown defense. I know Sterling got him down a couple of times and was able to kind of just be on top of Petr for long periods of time, and that was the biggest difference in that fight in Jacksonville. But all in all, his takedown defense is pretty damn good. And if Merab can't get him down and just keep spamming takedowns on him, it's going to be a tough night for him. So I do think this is competitive, and I think Petr Yan's going to win. I just think he's the better all-around fighter, and I think he gets it done. But if Merab goes out there, wins a 48-47, I wouldn't be stunned. Wouldn't be stunned at all. But if this goes to Splitty, and most people think Yan wins, and then it goes to Merab, it's just going to be one of those weird moments. Just another one. But great fight. Can't wait to see what happens and see what the discussion is like next week heading into UFC 286. Other main card fights, we have Alexandr Volkov versus Alexander Romanov. That is the co-main event. We have Nikita Krylov, Ryan Spann, supposed to be a main event.
Jose, what happens to the loser of the Alexander fight?
Oh, great question.
They become... Be careful. You don't want to offend anyone here. You got to be careful. We got a lot of people with a lot of different names watching this show. We don't want to hurt anyone's feelings.
They get their name changes to ampersand.
A cool name.
I know.
That is
the monkey.
Why the last man? Yeah, it's a cool name. Okay.
So you want to change it to the winner? You want to change it to the winner?
Okay,
it's ampersand. The winner becomes ampersand Volkov or ampersand Romanov. Oh man, great fight. All right, great names.
Yes, great fight. All right, let's see if Romanov's cardio can go past 4.5 minutes. That's the biggest question I have in this fight. Nikita Krylov, Ryan Spann, that was supposed to be a main event a couple weeks ago. Now we're getting it for 3 rounds. By the way, a point of contention about the Yan Merab fight as well. Small cage. We get the small cage. We're out of the apex, but it's the small cage. So maybe that could affect how you bettors out there are going to place your wagers, but it will be the small apex cage, but it'll just be inside a different building. So keep that in mind. Krylov Spann, we get Said Nurmagomedov versus the silence behind the violence. Jonathan Martinez and AK. Vitor Petrino is fighting who to kick off this now 5-fight main card?
Oh, I think you're asking about Anton Turkalj, better known as the Pleasure Man.
Why is his name that?
Okay, so someone asked him this. It sounds like the answer changed. In an interview I had seen earlier, I think around his first UFC fight, he had said something like it was based on he thinks it was based on a TV show, like some sort where's he's Swedish, right? He's a Swedish man. Some sort of Swedish TV show, and roughly translates to like the Pleasure Man. But this week he straight up the clip was put out there by shout outs MMA Media who put the clip out there. I'm not sure who asked the question. This week he straight up said, I was always a nice man growing up, and they used to call me the Pleasure Boy. And now I've grown up and I've become the Pleasure Man, and I'm here to pleasure the fans. And I was like, yes.
I hate that sentence.
I'm like, yes, that is what the thank you. I'm like, that is what the nickname should. That is a much more satisfying explanation for the nickname, Anton, because it is a pleasure, man, to watch this guy fight.
Oh, you want the comma in there.
So sometimes I like the comma, sometimes I don't. This
Anton,
is great about the nickname.
Pleasure, man, comma,
yeah,
man. All right,
it's been a pleasure, man. Yeah, it's great stuff.
Do you like that one better than Brandon Royval's?
Better than Brandon Royval, better than Julian Erosa. We don't need to say those nicknames.
I forgot how much disdain you have for Julian Erosa's nickname too. I thought it was just Brandon Royval. So, Jose, of the other main card fights that I just read off, which one intrigues you more? Is it the co-main event, the Alexander matchup? Is it Krylov Spann finally happening? Is it the bantamweights? Which main card fight stands out to you the most outside of the main event?
I mean, Spann Krylov has the most at stake in terms of like title contention, especially if Ryan Spann wins. How much he's coming off the KO of Dominic Reyes. He's submitted Ian Cutelaba, and the only ones he's lost to have been Johnny Walker and Anthony Smith, who are about to fight. So Ryan Spann is an interesting cat. I really like his team. Nikita Krylov is never in a boring fight unless he fights Johnny Walker for some reason, which is bizarre. It's tough. It's between that fight and the bantamweight fight. But since I'm already talking about the light heavyweights, I'll just say that, or the quote unquote 215ers, the catch weights. It's got to be that, I guess, considering that fight was that fight was supposed to be a main event. So to the point where the UFC obviously sees something in this matchup in terms of like future matchups down the road. So I would probably say that. I'm very curious to see how these two look, cutting weight so close together. That usually doesn't really work out. Yes, it's 215, but I was very much looking forward to that fight the first time. Ryan Spann won me over a lot when he fought in New York. I know he's a lot of people in our industry seem to think he's a difficult interview because he doesn't really like to open up, or he just kind of gets agitated real quickly. And we quickly learned at Media Day that he doesn't like talking to people if he doesn't know their name. So if you watch Media Day and the post-fight press conference, every time we asked a question, we would introduce ourselves. I would say, Jose. Okay. I would say Jose, and he would say, appreciate you. And then he would start to talk a lot. So he kind of won me over. He opened up a lot because, and then if you watch, like our mutual friend Nolan King was like, Nolan right here, and then like John Morgan, like Oscar Willis, everyone said their name before their questions, and then Ryan Spann actually opened up. Nikita Krylov is an incredibly violent man. He's either going to die or he's going to kill someone, unless your name is Johnny Walker, and then that fight is terrible. I'll let AK remember that fight because I'm pretty sure he was hyped on that fight. It just didn't work out. So that 215er catchweight fight, I think is very fascinating.
Yep, it's a good
one. But
we're
just talking about the main card, right? Because there's a lot of prelim fights I'm very excited about.
Oh yeah,
bantamweights.
Okay,
we'll go low key banger next. But AK, what other? Which one is it? The Pleasure Man? Is that the one that stands out the most?
Besides Vitor Petrino and the Pleasure Man, I need this. I need Anton Turkalj to get it. Listen, I've got two great online gimmicks going right now. The Anton Turkalj Pleasure Man stuff. Okay, I've cornered the market on that right now. I think I'm pretty like in the top 1% of North American Pleasure Man fans. And the Dante Shiro in Bellator, the Dante Shiro Taylor Swift anti-hero jokes I've had. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That I don't know if we're going to see that guy fight in Bellator again. But I kind of lost that one. I need the Pleasure Man to get a win because I think he still gets another chance. He kind of did them a solid, like jumping into the buzzsaw of Jailton Almeida on short notice for his debut. So I think even if he loses, he's going to get another shot. This Vitor Petrino cat's pretty good. I think the odds are fairly even. It's not like the Almeida fight where he's walking in and he's like like a plus whatever 5 million underdog. I think it's almost like a pick'em. So that's a good sign. But I'm obviously very intrigued by the main card fight. But I do want to talk about the prelims, Mike and Jose. Bantamweights. We got bantamweights.
Lots of bantamweight fights. I'm with the Alexander fight. I'm very, very fascinated by Alexander Romanov. I was wondering what he was going to look like today at the weigh-ins because
he looks like a big old bag of
trim. Yeah, he put all that weight back on. He got all shredded and slim, and now he's back to like just under the heavyweight limit. So we'll see how that cardio holds up. I don't know. Maybe he just feels like he's going to get Volkov out of there quick, which is a pretty tough ask, but we shall see what goes on there. But I was so high on Alexander Romanov heading into that Tybura fight. I really was. And then he just gassed out. It should have been a draw, by the way. I went and rewatched that fight this week. That should have 1000% been a draw. That was a 10-8 first round for me, but that is neither here nor there.
Did you see him at the weigh-ins today?
He looked big. He's put all that weight back on.
Beefy beef boy.
He looks like a bag of soup.
Listen,
with arms and legs.
Slimming down isn't for everybody. All right. He's looking like a beefy beef boy again. He weighed under 240 for the Tybura. No, that's not where you want to be. He's back up at 264.5 as of this morning, probably pushing 270 by the time he steps into the cage and has a big meal and steps into the cage. So. This is the Alexander Romanov we want to see.
You don't like hearing the term Juicy J, but you can say beefy beef boy.
That's not even the same thing. I don't see anything similar. Right. The Pleasure Man.
Yeah. So as you may have noticed, I ran off 5 main card fights means we were missing one from yesterday because we had a massive weight miss by Ricardo Ramos.
Yes.
Almost an entire weight class. Weighed in for a featherweight fight. What was the weight, AK? 154 or 154 and a half?
For a 145 pound fight.
8 pounds.
Now,
fight is obviously off. But go ahead, AK.
I think we've all cracked our jokes. You know, some misses weight is fine. You're gonna poke fun. Let's first say he probably came closer. I imagine he came closer and then at some point was told, like, hey, you know what? Just forget it. You're not gonna make maybe he got to like 148 or 147 or something. And they were like, you know what? You're not even gonna come close. Just rehydrate. It's just not healthy for you. At that point, I would say, why even weigh in? I would just withdraw. I don't know if they thought maybe he gets the scale and he gets a generous reading and still gets to fight or gets some sort of partial pay, because I imagine he doesn't. So that was very strange. I guess it's always best just step to the scale. But they had to know the fight was going to be canceled. There is no. I don't think, Jose, you would know better than me, of course. I don't think there's any mandatory Las Vegas, like if you miss by a certain amount. I was remembering the Alexa Grasso fight, but
that's happened in the. No, that was in Vegas. That was in Vegas. That was Alexa Grasso and Claudia. That was the McGregor Cowboy card.
Okay, that was in Vegas. Okay.
So like in the past, obviously they said like 5-6 pounds or whatever, but so I don't. But I have. That's the last I've really heard of it.
Yeah. So I assume because we just saw.
I think, and I don't remember if this is true. I think Claudia weighed in first. So she made like 115, and then and then Alexa Grasso came in at like 120. So then because at that point it's not a catch weight fight or whatever. It's like you just missed a bunch of weight. So like lately since then, I've seen a lot more people like their weight, if they hear their opponent struggling, they'll weigh in second. If that makes sense.
Well, this time, so I don't know if that. So this time, Ramos was the last person to weigh in. So Austin Lingo had already weighed in. Yeah, I don't know what he was thinking. And again, the other thing I always want to say in these circumstances, maybe there was some personal things that went down, some real health issues. So we don't want to poke too much fun. You guys can make your Ricardo Ramos jokes, but I don't know the circumstances. It looks bad. Obviously, it looks bad. I'm not making excuses for him ahead of time. I don't know the story. It could just be lack of discipline, just completely boofed it. But until the facts come out, I'm sure I have a feeling our own Guilherme Cruz will get on that sooner rather than later. I don't want to poke too much fun because that's really bad. Like that to me says something went wrong.
Yeah, because if you remember the Alexa Grasso fight, that was the fight that fell out, and then but before the fight was pulled, we gave Brian Kelleher his crystal. And then he got bumped up to the main card and got a bonus. So, and that began AK's love of the crystals.
I forgot to factor that in. That's right. And I can't even refute this because I did recently purchase from shout outs to Crystal Council. I did recently have to do a purchase from them for Valentine's Day. So I can't even say crap about it. The other thing, people were asking about Jared Gooden, who missed weight by 6 pounds. And that was my headline. I was, I'm working on the weigh-in recap and I'm like, oh, that's the headline right there. Jared Gooden missed by 6 pounds. Why that fight's going through, I'm not entirely sure. Again, that's a huge amount. Why he missed, we know. He's stepping in on 3 days' notice. He's fighting Carlson Harris. Carlson Harris was supposed to fight, ironically, someone who not ironically, coincidentally, someone who Jared Gooden fought in his first UFC run, Abubakar Nurmagomedov. So Jared Gooden stepping in for him on 3 days' notice. This is a situation where I wish they had just made this a catch weight once the contract was signed. Very bizarre. However, we kind of know why, because you make it a catch weight. Well, guess what? You don't get the person's money. So it sounds like Carlson Harris was like, fine, I don't care what he weighs at, because he did end up getting 30% of Jared Gooden's pay. The whole thing is a little icky. I'm not don't want to make excuses for Jared and his team. They signed the contract. They should have definitely made a better effort to make the weight. But to have a guy come in and save the fight and then he gets busted 30% is like, it's a little rough.
Was Jared Gooden in camp or whatever for like another? Because I know this was his first. Because he
just had a fight. He just had a fight. Yeah.
That was a tournament fight, right? So I don't know how quickly they were turning him around.
I also don't know what weight. Was that a welterweight? He fought DeMarcus.
It was a welterweight. It was a welterweight fight, and I believe it was what, the UFL, because that was in Arizona. That was in Arizona.
Oh. There you go. Yes, United Fight League 1. Very wild. If anyone find the clip at the ending of that fight, very wild, bizarre fight where DeMarcus Jackson's completely gassed and just like almost falls in his face instead of getting knocked out. It's weird. But yeah, so that's if you're wondering why one fights up the other, one didn't. The circumstances were very different, though I am a little surprised that the Gooden fight didn't also get canceled just because it's such a huge weight miss. But I don't know. I'm not sure what the commission's policy was on that.
Yeah, maybe it still is 6 pounds, like a 5 or 6 pounds.
Maybe, yeah, maybe.
I don't know. But yeah, because I remember Irene Aldana and Macy Chiasson was one of those things. Like Aldana got the phone call, Macy was going to miss. They made it a catch weight. They agreed upon it, and then Macy weighed in first, and then Aldana weighed in second. Aldana was like 139.5, and they bumped it to a 140. So yeah, there we go. But maybe Ricardo Ramos is like, you know what? Most people don't love the 6-fight main cards, so maybe I'll just do everybody a solid here, and I'll just miss weight by a lot, and let's cancel the fight. So, I mean, just an unselfish man, that Ricardo Ramos. So
I hope Ricardo's okay. Ricardo, I hope everything is fine with you personally and you know, financially and everything, mentally, and then we can just make fun of you for missing weight, because I hope everything's all right.
Fair enough. Yes. Last thing, and then we'll take a few questions from the peeps. Low key banger. We got some good prelims too, Jose. What's the low key banger, or if you want to run off a couple that stand out to you?
I mean, the answer is Rafael Assunção and Davy Grant. I mean, Davy Grant has never been in a boring fight ever. Like he had like what 4 or 5 performance bonuses in a row, like 2 fight of the nights, a couple performance of the nights. The Adrian Yanez fight was a split. He fought Chito Vera. Like, he's beaten Jonathan Martinez, who's above him. And then how you don't get the bonus after just melting Luis Smolka like he did in his last fight, unless there was something weird going into that fight. I don't quite remember. But Davy Grant is never in a boring fight. Rafael Assunção is finally back into the win column, beat obviously Casey's good friend, and I don't know if they still train together, but former or current training partner Victor Henry. But before that, he was what 4 in a row he had lost, like to Marlon. I know Corey Sandhagen was in there. Cody Garbrandt decapitated him. Ricky Simone. These are like the upper echelon of the bantamweight division. And at one point in time, everything we said about Tony Ferguson winning all those fights in a row, everything we've said about Merab winning all these fights in a row, Leon winning all these fights in a row and not getting the title shot, like Rafael Assunção at one point in time, TJ Dillashaw was the bantamweight champion of the world. Rafael Assunção had a win over him and had won like 7-8 in a row, and for some reason just wasn't getting the title shot. And then eventually he rematched TJ Dillashaw after TJ had lost, and TJ just tore through him. And then Assunção has wins over Aljamain Sterling, got the revenge over Marlon Moraes, beat Rob Font. Like, Rafael Assunção is low key, has one of the best resumes in the division in terms of wins and losses of who he's lost to and actually who he's beat. And then Davy Grant has never been in a boring fight in his entire life. That is the answer. There's great fights on the card. Like, I'm very excited to see Mario Bautista back in there. Like, Arnold Lipsky, JJ Alders are probably fighting for their jobs. Like, Tyson Nam is an exciting cat. Tony Gravely is an interesting individual. But like, if we're asking what's the low key banger, Rafael Assunção and Davy Grant should be on the main card because that fight rules.
Okay, what's yours?
I'm going to stick with the bantamweights, and I'm going to stick again with in the 40-plus range because I am fascinated by the Mario Bautista Ninja Canetti matchup. I have counted out Guido Canetti many, many times, and for the most part, like, not been wrong. But he's coming off back-to-back finishes. Yes, against guys who are no longer in the UFC, and it's not like they were world beaters in the UFC. But Randy Costa, pretty talented guy. Chris Moutinho, very tough, and he put both those guys away in the first round. He's 43. This guy was on the same, I believe he was on the same Ultimate Fighter season as Yair Rodriguez, right? This guy's no. This is, yes. He's an Ultimate Fighter Latin America original. And I'm really, listen, he's being set up here to I would think, be a quality win for Mario Bautista. Mario Bautista, definitely one of the up and comers in 135. You know, someone they don't want to launch him against top 20 opponents yet, which is fine, but he's getting there. You know, he beats Guido Canetti. There's not a lot more for him to do except start, challenging top 20 competition and making his way towards a title shot. But man, you can't count some of these guys out. Again, Assunção, I'm picking him to beat Davy Grant, and I'm certainly picking Bautista to beat Guido Canetti. But I don't know. I'm fascinated to see how these guys perform. Guido is an amazing shape for a 43-year-old guy, very talented guy, and seeing him actually like string together UFC wins is like inspiring in a way. So I do love that matchup. But Jose mentioned the Tyson Nam Bruno Silva fight, the little Bruno Silva, not Blindado Silva. And let me tell you something. This isn't no bets barred, but that's a flyweight under if I've ever seen one.
Yep.
Oh, that's a flyweight under. That is the lock. That is, if you're a believer in flyweight unders always hitting, I mean, you keep that train rolling. This is not going past the midway of the second round. Someone's going down. Someone's
completely
going down.
If you watch that fight, I believe Tyson Nam's last fight was the Ode Osborne fight, if I remember correctly. I was at that fight in San Diego when Ode Osborne throws whatever attack he throws. Tyson Nam gets the biggest smile on his face, and then he's just like death, just like just melted, because he's like, yeah, we drilled this 1,000 times, and then when it happened, I just couldn't help but smile. So he was like smiling as he just took away Ode Osborne's consciousness. It was a sight to behold.
Yeah, Tyson is get or get got all the way, which I appreciate, and Bruno Silva's kind of that same way too. AK, Davey Grant only a -140 against Rafael Sanso, so you might be happy to know that. Plus 115. Good. Mario Batista -1100 against Guido Canetti. Plus 650. What do you think about that?
That's powerful stuff. Guido's man. I'm not rooting for any. I have no rooting interest. I like Mario Batista a lot too. I know I spent that whole thing talking about Ninja Canetti, but you know, he's just been around longer. I've just gotten somewhat attached to him in his story. But I mean, I think Mario Batista again is probably, if things keep going as scheduled, will definitely be in our rankings, top 15 of, again, one of the toughest divisions in all of MMA by the end of the year. And we'll probably one of those guys who's sticking around there for a while. Whether he fights for a title or not, whether he becomes like top 5, I think he's going to be top 15, top 10 for like a long time. Really, really talented kid. So yeah, I think that's a little crazy. Almost any UFC fight, someone getting like -1,000. If we're not talking like a title fight, if we're not talking, I don't know, or some super hyped newcomer like a Bo Nickal situation. But listen, the numbers say what they say. It's a 29-year-old guy. It's a 43-year-old guy. It's a guy who's an up and comer. It's a guy who's theoretically, you know, I don't want to say on his way out. He just won 2 fights, but has to be closer to the end of his career than the beginning. The odds are what they are. I think it's a little ludicrous. But listen, if you're trying to get people to bet on Guido Canetti, I'm sure this is the best way to create action. So there you go.
I also love the Said Nurmagomedov Jonathan Martinez fight. The fight is tremendous and really good fight. Really, really good fight. Said's really good. Jonathan Martinez, those leg kicks are just nasty. Good. Those Factory X leg kickers, man. Him and Chris Gutierrez just leg kicking the hell out of each other on a daily basis. And now we're going to see those 2 fight tomorrow. The silence behind the violence, trying to keep his streak alive. So, all right, we'll take a few questions. Throw them in here. How's the poll looking, AK?
Most people settled on good. It didn't change too much. 57% saying good card. 16% say they're peeing themselves in anticipation. That to me sounds more like a medical issue than the quality of a statement about the quality of the card. So I would get that checked out, but I do admire the enthusiasm. Somehow 5% doing that. You couldn't pay me to watch this. Come on, guys. Come on. Don't tell me you'll be watching some other event that's going on in Las Vegas, some other Zuffa event that day instead. Let's not go there. But yeah, 57%, good card. I'm with that.
All right. AK, let's start with you, and then Jose, you can answer after. On BT, this is from BTL, and I believe no bets barred as well. Do you agree with Jed's claim that this card proves 135 pounds is not the best division in the UFC? Because there's 5 bantamweight fights on the card and people are not losing their minds over it.
Who did Jed pick to win in the co-main event last weekend? What are we talking about here? That's my answer.
Do people ever lose their minds over like a certain amount
over a fight night? No,
even a certain amount. Would someone go like, "Wow, there's 4 light fights"? That's not a thing.
But I think his point was if we took all the bantamweight fights off and we replaced them with lightweight fights, guys around the same rankings would be.
Lightweight would be has way more stars than bantamweight.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Name value, big time.
That was the big thing.
Yeah,
like if we replaced all the ranked people, like if we replaced the bantamweight ranked guys with lightweights that are the same ranking, would people be more excited for the card? And people probably would be, if we're being honest.
In terms of skill level, I'm not going to argue that bantamweight is the most skilled division, but in terms of like what gets people up, and what if there's a balance of like skill level to hype, lightweight all day. Like bantamweight skill to hype, it's like very skewed towards skill.
Yeah. Should the winner of Yan versus Merab be ready just in case something happens where they can't get Aljo versus Cejudo confirmed for UFC 2? Guys, that fight's happening. Okay.
Also, be ready for what? To fight
anybody. Maybe O'Malley. Maybe O'Malley. Maybe Cejudo.
Okay. I need to remind. Merab is not going to fight Aljo. Unless you pay both guys $50 million, maybe.
I still don't think they'll fight each other.
They're really, really close friends. They have not even hinted that they would want to fight each other. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I completely agree. Maybe you never know, but it's happening. Trust me, we've talked to both sides. It's happening. Maybe the ink hasn't dried yet, but
I think they were waiting to see where the card was going to happen before, because you can't really give anyone a contract if they don't have a location set in stone yet. But now that's the thing. So I'm sure it's any day now.
Yeah. And I think fighting in New Jersey is probably like the best thing for Aljo, because he's always talked about not wanting to fight in New York for certain commission reasons. And New Jersey's about a 30-minute drive from New York City. So boom, he's right there. And this is probably as close to a hometown fight as he's going to get. So did Gravely miss weight today? No. We might as well bring this up, but this has nothing to do with it. Dana White declaring war in the MMA media. Do you think comes from the slapping his wife all? I don't think it comes from that, but more of this AK has to come with the.
How could it be? Hold on. How could it be based on the slapping his wife fallout? We were critical, but my goodness, if the media could not. Listen. That whole incident, if it's any other sport, we're still talking about it today. We're still talking about today. That. He is treated so much with kid gloves. Mike, you and we were trying to be as objective as possible. Obviously, we're super disgusted by the incident. We're not. I don't want to speak for you. I'm not a fan of the man by any stretch. But anytime we talked about how that situation was handled by him in the UFC, we always did like a to the UFC's credit, to their credit, this statement, blah blah blah. Like, we couldn't have been more, I think, even-handed. Maybe even not critical enough. So if he has some, I don't know, beef with the media about how they handled the New Year's Eve situation with his wife, that's insane. He's an insane person. And I would hope that's not the issue, but I don't know. Jose, you have to deal with this guy more often than the rest of us. So I don't know. What do you got to say?
It's tough because, like, if Roger Goodell does this, it's not even remotely similar, because Roger Goodell is the commissioner of a league and Dana White is the president, and like he has stake in this industry, like the specific company. If there was a mixed martial arts commissioner, that would be different. Don King is still allowed to walk in public, and that man did. It's going to sound bad. That man did far worse things than what Dana White did. Did Dana White do something bad? Without question. It's disgusting. This is just, it's a promoter and he's in charge of the promotion. So if he's in charge of the punishment, this is what we get. But I think, like what AK said, I don't even, like, we handled it as evenly as possible. Maybe even we should have been more harsh, but in terms of me, and I don't want to speak for you guys, I don't even like, Dana's not even really in my peripheral vision. Like, I don't really, like, when I'm covering MMA, like, I don't really think about it. Like, he's just
100% agree.
He's the guy that answers questions at the end of the press conferences, but like I'm there to, like, at the press conference, like, it's clearly the 5 fighters on stage that I'm thinking about. Like, if Dana stays or goes, I don't lose sleep over it. Like, I don't think about the man. I'm just there to cover what's happening inside the octagon.
His war against the media is about, like, the slap fight league, because we're not covering it. That's what it is. And, like, other people wrote negative things, and Dana has this ability to turn everybody against the media as a whole for anybody writing a negative thing about it. Like, if former WWF wrestler Chris Nowinski, who is a, like, head trauma specialist now, essentially, CTE, all that, writes a bad thing for an article for the New York Times, all the media is lumped into that one thing. So that's why he gets all mad. We don't cover it because it's not for us. We're not going to cover the power slap thing. And he likes to call this thing, well, this is exactly like the UFC where the media and everybody is against us and we proved them wrong. The media was not against you back then. The media wasn't against you. In fact, the media kept your business alive until the Ultimate Fighter happened. The Sure Dogs of the world, all those old school MMA websites. Without the media, there is no UFC. It's dead. It is gone.
But this is also I'm sure there are a lot of fight fans that either became fans during the Conor era and the Ronda era, or became fans during the pandemic. You guys remember Loretta Hunt? This is nothing new. This is not anything new. So it's like
Josh Gross.
What if I told you tomorrow, Mike and AK, that the sun is going to rise? You're going to write an article about it? Probably not. Because this is nothing new. This happens. Yeah. It's nothing new. If he goes after me, I'm like, okay, I'm still going to cover the sport.
Yeah. Why are you declaring war on the MMA media for not covering slap fight? Declare the war on slap fight media, because that's who covers slap fight. Is there
slap fight media?
There should be. If you're looking to make a name for yourself in the space of combat sports, that's probably a good direction to go. And I was right about the slap fight league from the beginning. It's a terrible idea for television, but it is a great idea for social media. That's where you make your money. Them being on TBS was a terrible business decision. It was awful. There's no way this is going to do well. 220,000 viewers for the go-home show before a pay-per-view is horrendous. It should never be on television. Throw it on YouTube. Rumble is and that's smart. Getting it on Rumble and doing 2 years on Rumble is brilliant. That's where it should be. And it should be on social media. The clips are going to do well because people are going to be scrolling through. Oh, what is this? Oh my God, someone just slapped the shit out of somebody else. And the target audience is social media. And you know what else is great? Bars. Drunk people love power slap as well. We did testing, watched about 100 drunk people in the bar. And when someone slapped the other dude over, woo, they were so excited about it. Of course, drunk people are going to watch it. You're fine. It took you a year, but you figured it out. Now you got the right target audience for it. Just keep shoving it down their throats. And the problem is, the other thing I want to say before we wrap this part of it up, this whole thing of, well, for the last 10 years, slap fighting's been a thing, but the media members didn't say anything about it. Do you want to know why? Because we were allowed to avoid it. When this whole thing started, we couldn't avoid it if we tried. We tried to avoid it. You shoved it down our throats so much that it couldn't go away. People are just like, oh, I want to go to UFC.com and see what time the main card starts tomorrow. You know what they're inundated by? Power slap promos everywhere. Oh, there's a flash there. There's a flash there. There's a giant banner. You have to scroll down for 45 seconds before you can get to the damn fight card to watch the stupid show on TBS that nobody's going to watch because being on cable television was a stupid ass idea to begin with. So I don't understand what the war against MMA media is for power slap. It's so stupid. It frustrates me.
Mike, AK, if Dana White started a baseball league, would we cover it?
No, I wouldn't.
No, probably not. Why? Because it's not MMA.
That's right. Although a Dana White baseball league would be pretty interesting.
I would love it. I would honestly love it so much.
If they implemented some combat sports into
it. If they took MLB Slugfest, the game, if they made that an actual sport, I would quit MMA fighting to cover that. Without question, especially if they actually incorporated the tomfoolery of lighting your hands on fire and getting in a fist fight at first base. I'm there for it.
See, these are good ideas. These are quality ideas.
Yeah. If you guys look, if you want to watch power slap, if it's for you, watch it. I'm not going to say you're a terrible human being, but if it's for you, cool. Yeah. If it's for you, it's awesome. It should not be something. Yeah. It shouldn't be on all the UFC platforms.
And as I said, as I think I said on your Heck of a Morning show once, Mike, when I called in, I covered that media day. All the fighters are interesting, or quote unquote, the slap people, the fighters, whatever we phrase, the athletes, interesting guys. A lot of them are just hey, I like martial arts. This was offered to me. I like making money. So be it. If it's just not for me, it's just not for me. If you like it,
cool.
Do your thing, man.
Yeah, if you'd rather go to the Apex and watch the Power Slap event and not go to the hotel and watch UFC, that's fine. Like that's totally fine.
To the UFC's credit, like they are really using, like everything is, like the media days and stuff all coincide with UFC stuff. So it's like media is there to cover the UFC, and then like Power Slap is there. So and if we ever want to talk to Dana, like I bet after a while Dana only does media after Power Slap stuff.
Yeah, it's very possible.
It's very possible.
All right, a couple more. 10
out of 10 rant, Mike. 10 out of 10 rant, Mike.
I'm just
quality.
I knew it was going to come up at some point. I've been holding that in. I was like, someone's going to ask me the stupid thing, and I'm just going to unload. So hopefully this.
Well done.
We pumped the brakes for a minute. Usman Nurmagomedov is a minus 2,500 tonight.
Is he really?
Where?
Yes,
where?
Against Benson Henderson.
What?
So where? Well, on what,
is he really?
On what site?
Holy cow!
I will say DraftKings, the only betting site that fans of MMA fighting and the MMA Hour should be using. Code the MMA Hour. Right now, minus 1650 for Usman and plus 950 for Benson Henderson. But I think the heart of the question is whether it's plus 16, whether it's minus 16, minus.
It was minus 2,500 this morning. I will say that it was.
Would this be the biggest betting upset ever mathematically? Like, what was Ronda Holly? Like, Ronda was like minus 1,400.
This would be up there.
Oh, I think
I think my man Big Tuna might have one of the biggest Bellator ones. My man Big Tuna.
All I'll say is Bellator. I always say if you're gonna like make some money, Bellator is the way to go. Normally it's an undercard. Normally it's a random undercard fight, not one of the main events. It's like some undercard, some guy they're pushing who's like 3-0, and he's like and his opponent's like a plus 1,200 underdog. You know, you throw $5 on that guy. There you go. You got yourself a free dinner that weekend.
What was
It opened at minus 1,100 for Usman.
Yeah,
that's
and
betting lines open.
Benson right now is on DraftKings plus 950. So again,
that's like what Shayna Dobson was like plus 950, wasn't she?
This is Shayna Dobson. Who was that woman?
Agapova.
Arena Agapova. Holy cow!
Our former UFC champion, 2-time Bellator title contender. If the question is asking, is this disrespectful? Yeah, it's incredibly disrespectful. And I think Usman's amazing. I think we've all said Usman could be a top 5 lightweight right now. But listen, if this goes to decision, Benson has won some funky ones, man. I mean, that's just the way his fights go. He's really never out of a fight. You know, he finds ways he knows how to win MMA fights. You know, maybe that hasn't been the case more often than not over the past 5 years. But for him to be plus 950 underdog, almost plus 1,000. That's a lot. So hey, bananas. Guys, don't bet on MMA. But if you do bet on MMA, $5.
And we don't know like how much longer we're gonna get Benson Henderson. If he wins, obviously he has the tournament. If he loses, I bet one more, maybe in Arizona, because then he said for a long time that once his wife Maria becomes pro, like that's a wrap for him.
Yeah, I think he said he has like 2 or 3 more fights on his deal, and then that's pretty much going to be it for him. So, what a crazy moment that would be if he beats Usman Nurmagomedov tonight.
I really like
that. That would be stunning. That'd be pretty damn stunning.
Has terrible comic book opinions. Great human being.
Jericho21 in the comments says he went from plus 1,100 to plus 950. So a lot of money.
Wow.
A lot of money has already come in.
Wow,
so sorry guys, you guys missed the plus 1,100. That's
shoot. Guess I can't bet on this card then.
Pat Downey was minus 16 to minus 2,500 when he got KO'd. That's right. That is a good one.
Look at those undercards. Look at those prelims, guys. Look at those prelims. You're looking for value because you just never know what can happen in MMA. And I tell you, keep fading some of these like massive favorites. Eventually, you're gonna make enough money to I don't know, again, be happy. Get yourself a steak dinner.
This Bellator card is really, really good. I mean, it's really, really good.
It's
Alexander Shabli versus Tofik Musayev is such a good fight. In my opinion, the main event's interesting. Yan versus Dvalishvili is interesting. Shabli versus Musayev is my everything this weekend. I'm so excited for that fight. That's my favorite fight of the weekend. And no one's talking about it. Flying under the radar, 5-rounder, first lightweight Grand Prix fight. We're living in a world, gentlemen, where Michael Venom Page is fighting Goichi Yamauchi. It's a fun world to live in. It is a fun world to live in, gentlemen.
Goyito Perez is on the prelims.
And
Mexico's own.
Against Enrique Barzola.
Peru versus Mexico. Hello. I'm into that.
There's not that big of a rivalry there, but
I'm into that. I still like it.
Do we have any more questions?
Goyito is like the nicest man in the world.
Yeah, I think we're good. All right. Lots of MMA. Lots of MMA to get you excited. Bellator is going to kick off in a couple hours, but tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern, for the prelims for the UFC card, 6 p.m. main card. We'll have a People's Pre-Fight Show, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. So get excited for that. It'll be myself and Jed Mishu, where takes will fly, and then post-fight show after that. And then AK, you and I are back on Sunday for some matchmaking. Back to the old school podcast listeners submitting their picks, and then it's onwards to UFC 286. Which Jose, you're going to be there, right? You're going to be in London.
Leave Sunday, baby. Let's
go. So, and we, of course, will have all your coverage for that. So enjoy a very busy and fun weekend in the world of mixed martial arts. For AK, for Jose, I am Mike Heck. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody.